Hello, and greetings of peace. Thank you for joining me on the Lead from Your Soul podcast on Thoughtful Thursdays at noon with Dr. Aya. So, just give you a brief introduction of what we're going to do today. So, first, I will introduce myself, then, we'll talk about how stress is killing us. We'll touch on some stress leadership statistics. We'll look at workplace stressors, the 10 most common workplace stressors. We will look at what problems I solve. I will share some stories, transformational stories from a couple of my clients, and we will look at a story and reframe it to see how approaching the situation from a place of calm and clarity, a state of well-being, how can transform the story and change the scenario completely. And I guess that's, for me, I wanted to use that as a way to help people understand where I'm coming from, because statistics are good, but it really comes down to storytelling and seeing how we can actually change this information from intellectual understanding to embodied wisdom. And stories are the best when it comes to that. They're fun, they're entertaining, but also they change our mindset in a subtle way. So they really do help us reframe and see things from a different perspective. So let's get going. I will start by introducing myself. My name is Dr. Aya Akeri. I'm just a young lady, an adventurer, a wayfarer, crossing continents and cultures only to discover the truth that unites us all, our interconnection with each other and the universe. My story is one of intense transitions. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and spent the first half of my childhood in Tripoli, North Africa, and the second half in Dublin, Ireland. And you don't have to be a cross-cultural specialist to imagine it's like living between worlds. I'm a certified leadership coach, credentialed by the International Coaching Federation. I'm an organizational leadership specialist, an emotional resilience coach, and mentor. My goal is to transform the conception of leadership into one of inner peace, wisdom, and creation-based thinking. I empower leaders to lead from the soul through conscious awareness via coaching and mentoring. I help professionals, executives, and change leaders beat burnout, overcome overwhelm, enhance performance, increase productivity, and navigate work life and family life from a state of well-being. I help them excel in everything that they do. So, how's stress killing us? In a Forbes article titled "Why Your Workplace Might Be Killing You," a study was conducted by 2 Stanford professors and 1 Harvard professor, and it's a meta-analysis of 228 studies examining 10 workplace stressors. Now, these workplace stressors that were examined include, they also were looking at how these workplace stressors negatively impacted the well-being of the employees, whether they're professionals, executives, change leaders, workers, managers. And the 10 top stressors were no insurance, shift work, which because somehow it's related to long working hours. Long working hours is another one. Job insecurity, so basically uncertainty. Work-family conflict. A lot of people that comes up for them work-family balance or harmony, as opposed to trying to alleviate the effect of work-family conflict. Low job control. I guess as human beings, we appreciate autonomy. High job demands. Feeling under pressure that you're being pulled in multiple directions, and that happens, especially when you have a family and you have a high-performance job. Low social support, so that emphasizes the importance of human interaction and connection. We do need human connection and interaction, as well as some space alone. I mean, it's good to have those times of solitude, just connecting with yourself, but also we need that social support for us human beings. It's important for our mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And that, I think the best example of that is COVID, like the isolation. A lot of people actually struggled a lot with well-being, because the big part of isolation, lockdowns, it really is taxing on human health. And finally, organizational injustice. And they're talking about perceived injustice, because a lot of the time it's our perception of things is very important, because it affects how we feel about it. Okay. So the two Stanford professors and the Harvard professor, they did a meta-analysis. So they looked at 228 studies examining those 10 workplace stressors, right? And the statistics were staggering. I want to share the screen here because I have a little, let me see. I wanted to share let me see. This here. So this, I hope you can see my screen. And why do we need emotional resilience? Because a lot of people, what I'm finding is they don't have awareness. They're not aware that they need emotional resilience. They just think, oh no, I'm fine, right? And just raising awareness about the problem, about the fact that we all need that foundation of emotional well-being, resilience being agility and adaptability. And that's an essential component of leadership, whether you're a professional or an executive or a teacher or even a parent. You need to be able to navigate uncertainty, because for most of us, all of us actually, the future is unknown, right? We have to navigate everyday challenges. More so if you're dealing with small children or in a high performance job or a demanding job. And for us to be able to navigate those challenges without letting it affect our well-being, we need that foundation of emotional resilience. So stress is killing us. That's our reality. Anxiety disorders are America's most common mental illness. They account for 120,000 deaths each year. And they cost 190 billion in healthcare costs. Long work hours increase mortality by 20%. Poor work-life balance, and I think it's a big thing for us mothers and fathers too, I guess. It increases the chances of you having poor physical health by 90%, and perceived injustice in the workplace. And the emphasis here is on perceived, because it really comes down to our way of processing the situation. It increases the chances of you being diagnosed with a medical condition by 50%. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I go back to, I've just stopped sharing. So, yep, there we go. Okay, so you see the chances of you being diagnosed by medical condition increases by 50% if you perceived injustice. Work-family balance is a big thing. Having conflict increases the chance of having poor physical health by 90%. And I guess a lot of it is not having enough time to take care of yourself, but also just that being under constant stress. I remember last year in the annual conference by the International Coaching Federation, they had a conflict analyst, Joyce Didison, and she talked about organizations that have ongoing conflict, that people there were suffering from chronic conditions that were exacerbated by stress, like dyspepsia, digestive symptoms, high blood pressure. And actually, one of her clients had a heart attack in her office, because it's just the stress was mounting up, and he kept bottling it up and obviously not dealing with it. And a lot of the time, that's what we do. We ignore. No, I'm fine. Everything is fine, even though our body is telling us it's not okay. Our intuition is telling us that it's not okay, but it's so easy to, like, like an ostrich, they just stick their head in the sand. And we tend to do that when challenges get too much for us. We just pretend, we try to ignore it, right? Because the half of the treatment is actually the diagnosis, and being aware of what your problem is really helps you find a solution to it. Because if you don't know that you have a problem, then you're not going to treat it, right? So you just wait until you have full-blown burnout and everything falls apart. And it's not to say that you can't fix that, but prevention is always better than cure. So looking at these stress statistics, okay, and this is a quote by the Stanford professor Stefano Zinios, and he asserts that deaths from the 10 workplace stressors are comparable to the 4th and 5th causative death in the country, and these are heart disease and accidents. It's more than deaths from diabetes, Alzheimer's, and influenza. Yeah, gets you thinking, right? And so basically, the stress has both physical and psychological effects on our well-being. And according to the conclusion of the study by a professor, he's one of the professors here again, organizational behavior, and he says it costs more to remediate the effects of toxic workplaces than it does to prevent their ill effects in the first place. So again, prevention is better than cure, right? So I'm going to look at more leadership statistics. There's this study that was done by Gallup in 2022 looking at leadership statistics, and a staggering 79% of employees will resign after receiving inadequate appreciation from the managers, and 69% of millennials feel that their managers do not develop the leadership skills. And according to the study, leadership stress costs the US $300 billion annually. Also, this study asserts that leadership stress can affect an organization's or a company's bottom line. And again, I want to share with you the statistics here, just sharing the screen, because it really does help to see the numbers as opposed to me just telling you the numbers. So let me see. Right. And let me share the screen again here and the windows. No, I hope you can see my screen. So just let me know in the chat if you can see my screen. So this is a recent study surveyed 2,000 professionals, and that was by Gallup, and established the following. 76% of the participants reported that work stress had negatively impacted the quality of their relationships. 66% disclosed losing sleep because of work stress, and 16% said they had to leave their jobs due to stress. Right, so interesting statistics. So why is this important? I find it important to raise awareness about the effect of leadership stress, because a lot of the time people don't realize how it's affecting their well-being, how it's affecting their relationship, how just ignoring the problem is only going to make it get worse. Here, I would like to share more about what, so we looked at the Gallup, and it's never too late to seal the $1 million leak in the organization where people have loss of top talents. Like for organizations, it's not just about physical, it is about the well-being of their employees, but it also affects the organization's bottom line, because you get loss of top talents, and it costs a lot of money to replace top talent. So I want you to pause and reflect. On a scale of 1 to 10, where is your stress level right now? I wouldn't mind if you shared it in the chat. I'm looking at the chat here. Hello? Hey, Belinda. Thank you. Hi, Aruj. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I was looking forward to meeting you guys. Thank you so much for showing up. So I don't know, but my question was, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, where is your stress levels? Where are your stress levels right now? And if you do nothing about it, where do you think they would be in a year from now, or 5 years from now? Another thing is, it's good to be in tune with your body. So it's like, where do you feel your stress? Is it in your throat? Do you experience it in your chest, your belly, butterflies in your stomach, shoulders? Do you feel excited about do you feel ready to face each day, or is it a tough roll out of bed? And then an important question to reflect on is, what must you let go of to have a high performance, stress free life? Important questions. And I would love to hear your response in the chat. So basically, I help people deal with, so I do leadership coaching, training, and mentoring. I also like to build that foundation of emotional wellness, that resilience, agility, and adaptability, being able to navigate uncertainty, being able to deal with change, because the world is a complex, rapidly changing environment. And it's very important for us professionals, executives, leaders to be able to manage that without it affecting our well being, right? So it's like having the challenges without the challenges having us. Growing from them, cultivating the challenges as opportunities for growth, as opposed to being overwhelmed by them. Because overwhelmed, we lose it. When we have overwhelm, we lose our clarity, and it's hard to function. So I help with anxiety, stress, low motivation, low confidence, poor performance, negative thinking patterns, overwhelm, burnout. And a study done by Kelly and Pransky, and they studied the understanding of how our human experience is created. And they mentioned that some people learn to worry, obsess, ruminate. They adopt unhealthy thinking patterns. They think rightly, egotistically. And really comes down to how we approach life, from what kind of mindset do we approach life. And I'd like to share a story from a coaching session I facilitated this week. It's actually one of my clients, and it's a group coaching session that I run weekly. And I was so excited and happy about the transformation I've seen with this specific client and others. That like this big transformation in such a short period of time. So when we first started, he was out of work. He literally spent almost 12 to 14 hours a day playing video games, and he was suicidal, depressed, and was going in and out of a mental hospital. He was even on medication. We had a couple of coaching sessions, and for a little while he just said he wanted to have some time to himself, and he had his space for a little time. And then I saw him this week, and I was amazed at the transformation. I was seeing a new person, and that was like within a very short period of time. He had got a new job, not spending time with video games anymore. He's just busy around the farm. He lives on 48 acres of land. He had met a new partner. He was going to church. Joined his Bible studying group, and just very different. Like, it's like seeing a new person, going from down there where you're depressed and suicidal to up there where everything just seems to be falling into place. And I'm not saying that happiness comes from these things, right? Because happiness lies within. Never look for happiness outside yourself, because happiness lies within. But when you do have that transformation, that mindset, you start to adopt or align with these thoughts of higher frequency, high vibration. And you start to attract abundance, and everything starts to fall into place. Another client, again, I saw her this week too. She was struggling with the loss of 2 loved ones. She was describing her workplace. She wasn't happy. It was kind of a toxic work culture. It was very hard to connect with people. And again, at home too, she felt isolated because her family just kind of bottled up their emotions. They were all grieving and did not connect or communicate. So she ended up feeling alone, like having to face all the challenges alone. And over the last couple of weeks, the transformation was fantastic. She's looking into actually she just found an opportunity for a job where she would feel like at home, like a sense of belonging and mattering, that she would have more control over her hours, more flexibility, more autonomy, doing her own thing. And then also like in terms of dealing with the family situation, she's more open, she's more understanding towards it. It's just that reframing or that mindset shift. Another story I'd like to share, I was in this group coaching session last week, and we talked to a psychologist. So Dr. Dickens, he has a PhD in psychology, and he's talking about his own personal story and how he come into understanding how his mind works, this understanding that we use, or the human nature-based understanding, like understanding how your human experience is created. And he talks about him working on himself for over, well, he said he worked on himself all but 4 hours a day. So when he slept from midnight until 4, after that, he was doing meditation. He did all sorts of therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy, gestalt therapy, screaming therapy, pounding pillows. And he said there are 450 theories in psychology, and they're all based on the understanding that we're broken and we need fixing. So it's like you have to work really hard to find well-being. And that's what he was struggling with. He was journaling, writing his dreams, like 5 dreams every night. He would write them and then think about them and fix them and reframe them, until he come into contact with the teacher of the teachings of how human experience is created, like understanding her mind work. And he realized that he didn't have to do any of this. And his life like completely changed. So he has like this peace and clarity that doesn't involve all of these kinds of therapies. And just reflecting on this story, I see that usually when you buy something, it comes with a manual. So you buy a car or a washing machine, it comes with a manual. And it helps when you read the manual so that you can leverage whatever it is you bought, the car, the machine. Unfortunately, when we're born and when we have children, they don't come with a manual, right? And understanding how your mind works, I think of it as a manual. Because when you don't understand how your mind works, then it's going to work against you. Life will keep happening. There will always be challenges. But if you understand how your mind works, then you can leverage your mind, leverage these challenges as an opportunity for growth. As opportunities for growth, I should say. And makes life so much easier. Everything just falls into place. And you start to attract that abundance, that idea of effortless success. That's worry-free, not work-free. So I want to share another story, and we're looking at the story of what happens. This is a story of a successful CEO, but having a stressful day at work, and then just reframing the same scenario and looking at it. What if we had the same situation, but the person experienced it from a place of calm and clarity? How that would affect the outcome of the situation. And this is the story I'm going to read to you, and it's from ebook. Okay. So it's all to do with a computer meltdown. So this person had a deadline coming up the next day. He had to hand in a proposal, right? And he had it all written up. And then when he tried to go in and look at it for one final time, the computer didn't work. So he got really stressed out. And he decided to call the computer service line. So he called the computer service line. After 10 attempts to get through, he was passed on to an automated machine. And the stress levels were just kept increasing as he was just going through the whole making the phone calls. And then eventually he did get through to an agent who told him that they have a backlog and that they would not be able to fix his machine for another week. Now, when he did talk to that agent, he was at that point, he was very angry. So he did not really communicate well. And this is where mindful communication comes in. It's really important to be able to communicate what you need without having all that panic and that stress taking hold of you. So here he was. He had to wait another week. The deadline was tomorrow. So he hangs up, slams the phone, hangs up, and he's worrying about how he's going to approach his boss and tell him about what happened. So he storms into the boss's office. He tells him, look, it's not going to work. The proposal's in the computer's shut down. They said they won't be able to fix it for another week. And the boss, again, instead of acting from a place of calm and clarity and well-being, he gets angry and frustrated. He's worried about what his boss is going to say to him. So he shouts at him and he tells him that, you need to step up and I will try to find your computer. So he waits around until he's given the computer at 4 p.m. He sits down, and by the time he sits down, he's just so angry and his mind was just racing that he was not able to write anything. He was given another computer, so he didn't have the proposal. So it came out, he was making a lot of mistake. It did not come out right. He did not feel right. He did what he could, and then he went home at 11 p.m. So he goes home, and his wife is not happy. She talks about how he's always putting work first, so they have a fight and he goes to bed, and it wasn't a very restful night's sleep, as you can imagine. So now let's look at the scenario and examine it if you're coming from a place of calm clarity and understanding that you can have life's challenges without challenges having you. So he comes in, the proposal's due tomorrow, the computer shuts down, freezes on him, right? So instead of calling the computer service line, he decides to talk to one of his coworkers. So he just walks over calmly and mentions it to her, and he says, this is what happened to me. And she's like, oh, funny, that happened to me last week, so maybe you can approach the computer service line, they could help you. So he calls, he waits, he had to wait. He was put on hold for a long time, and then when he did talk to the agent, he told him about the backlog and that the computer, that they won't be able to fix it for a week. And he's like, I really understand that you're under pressure, but you know what? I have an assignment tomorrow. It's on my computer. I need to address this issue today. It's urgent. And I'm sure you've been in my shoes before, where you're in a situation where everything just felt like it's not working. And just because he was empathetic to the customer service support, the other person was just as empathetic and understanding. And he's like, okay, I understand. I'll try to get you someone to help you today as soon as possible. And so eventually, even though they don't get him someone to help him, they give him another computer. So he goes in there and he starts working on it. And this time, because he's acting from a state of calm and well-being, he's able to write a good proposal because his mind, he's got his bearings. He's got everything in his mind because he's already done it. It's just a matter of trying to remember and just go with the flow, really. And then when he has it all ready, then he goes into his boss calmly and explains the situation. He says it's ready, written up. Even though they couldn't help me fix the computer today, they still gave me a replacement. And the boss is delighted. He thanks him and he is amazed by how he was able to function well under pressure. And that's an important leadership competency, being able to function under pressure, because in life you have pressures, especially if you're in a hardworking environment with a lot of leadership positions or professional or working with people. Being able to function under pressure is essential. So you can see here the difference between acting from a place of chaos and stress as opposed to acting from a place of calm, clarity, and confidence. And the outcome changes because we create our own reality. So the world responds, the universe responds to how we act. The first time he was angry, he was shouting at the agent at the customer service support, so they didn't help him. The boss got angry, and then when he did eventually get around to writing his proposal, it just didn't come out right, and then he had a fight. But this time he decided, okay, I'm gonna have this challenge, I'm gonna be able to deal with it. It's not the end of the world. It's an issue, maybe a problem, but not a disaster. So you can see here that he realized that his emotional experience was coming from his thinking and from how he was dealing with the world, not from the situation itself. And when he was in this high frequency thoughts or positive thinking, then he was able to communicate clearly. He was showed empathy to the customer support, and therefore they showed empathy to him. So he did not feel isolated. His thoughts were flowing in an organized, intelligent manner. So he was able to write up what he needed to write, and he was connected with his innate intelligence, which we would call wisdom. So, like, basically acting from common sense rather than just having a knee-jerk reaction, just a full-blown panic attack. What do I do now? And so the moral of the story is, when life gets out of control, the first step is always to regain your bearings. And this reminds me of my takeaway from a session that I attended this week. And I really like this quote, so I wrote it down. The intellect cannot understand the workings of wisdom in the same way that the computer cannot understand the computer programmer. So I'm looking at the chat here. I don't know if you have any questions. Okay, you're right on the point. I just left corporate last month. Oh, congratulations. I was so stressed. I'd love to talk with you later. Thank you. Yes, I'd love to talk to you. Thank you for attending, Belinda. Yeah, thank you, Aruj. Interesting. Really looking forward to seeing you live. Oh, how stress is killing us. Yes, stress is killing us because we're letting it get to us. We're ignoring the problem. We're pretending like we're sticking our heads in the sand and saying, oh, I'm not stressed. I don't really deal with these workplace stressors. They're for someone else. And then it just creeps on you, and until you get to the point where you realize it. And see, that's the other thing. And that's something I've gone through myself, because I did experience burnout myself. And it's like, yeah, we're guided by divine wisdom. Okay. And these love letters are sent, like these subtle messages that come to us through our intuition, and it's telling us there's something wrong, you're not in alignment. And we just tend to ignore it or silence it. And the messages keep getting louder and louder and louder, until eventually you hit burnout, everything falls apart, and you're like, oh, now I hear it. And it makes sense to actually hear it initially. But you know what? We're all in this journey. We're all growing and learning. I've had to wait until I've reached burnout and everything fell apart for me to actually pay attention and see how I was out of alignment and just realign myself. And that's why I'm doing this. I want to do this because I want to help other people, so I won't have to get to the point where they experience burnout and wait until everything falls apart. Because it took me years to get back on my feet and discover the process. And I want to give you that. I want to give you the gift of clarity and self-awareness, so you can lead your life with clarity. Because if you don't have clarity, you're not leading your life. Your life is leading you. You think you're a leader? You're not. You're just a follower. You're just following whatever life. You're just reacting, not leading. You're reacting to life, not leading. And it really is about being able to experience that effortless success that comes with connecting you with your innate well-being, understanding how the mind works. That manual. Like, you wouldn't think of operating certain machines without looking at their manuals, but we decided we could just handle life without understanding how our mind works. And a lot of it to do with the field of psychology, like Dr. Dickens was saying, with psychology, 450 theories are all based on the understanding that we're broken, but we're not. We're okay. We're always having, always will be. We just can't see it sometimes. And my job is to help you see it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Again, this is Dr. Aya Akari. I really enjoyed you. Thank you, Aruj and Belinda, for coming. Really enjoyed it talking to you and looking at your questions. Love to connect with you later. I would love to hear your takeaways and feedback. If you watch this in replay, please hashtag replay. And if you have put any questions in the comments, I will do my best to answer them. And I hope you enjoyed our discussion today. It was interesting seeing how stress is killing us. And until we meet, Thoughtful Thursdays at noon with Dr. Aya, you can download a free goal setting guidebook and goal setting workbook from my website, www.drayakari.com. If you go to the resources tab, you can also sign up for my upcoming book. It's titled Lead from Your Soul, the four world views of inspiring leaders. You can also go to the contact page and book a strategy call with me, a 15 to 30-minute call, like a laser coaching session, so we can look at your goals, look at how you can overcome overwhelm, beat burnout, enhance your performance, increase your productivity, and navigate work life and family life from a state of well-being and excel at everything you do. Thank you and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much. Bye.